Okay, Bitcoin had a rally. It got a topping tail. I got a lot of signals, a couple of topping signals there around the highs of the rally, and it remained there by the close, and we had a topping tail in the form of a shooting star candlestick here, and it's trying to get confirmation here with our Tuesday session there. We broke out above the upper band. We got this topping tail. Now we're closing back below the upper band. RSI got back into positive territory again, back and forth from positive to negative, and then here positive, and we remain positive, and we've now had a breakout out of this trading range, the rectangle that you see right here. Right now, Bitcoin is down at the moment for the Tuesday session, down 2% at the moment, and it is down to 117,500. It hit 23,200 and some change there. So again, coming down hard off of that level with our topping tail. We'll be watching to see, again, do we back test? Do we get a pullback? It is likely we're going to see a divergence develop on the RSI here. No guarantee it happens. Over here, it didn't. We just hit an extreme, and then we got confirmation of a lower high, and then eventually had all of this sideways chop and slop. Again, I talked about the two scenarios over here at this bottom, either this marking just a shallow sell-off of 12%, marking a bottom, or we get something bigger when the stock market tops. We ended up getting a breakout. So again, we could still have some volatility if the market does start selling out. But like I said, the market may be playing catch up to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is possibly now in wave 3, and more than likely that is the case. I'll be watching to see if a divergence does sell off set up here. You know, we're still above the 10 period, or do we come back to back test or come back to the 10 period and then we end up going higher, or end up getting a divergence before all is said and done? If we are in a wave 3, we could have the 1 and the 2 and be carving out the wave 3 right here for wave 3, then get a 4, then get a 5 for an extended wave 3. So keep that in mind. We don't have to form a divergence. We could, but we did get a topping tail. So again, I'll be watching all of this. A couple of things to be aware of. The stochastic is at extremes. It's rolling over, but it's still up here at extremes. It can remain at extremes for an extended period of time. MACD is not rolled over yet. Again, we'll likely end up going higher if this is the wave 3. I think it likely is. We've got negative divergence developing, though, for the bigger picture. You've got it here on prim parameter. You got a larger divergence here going on with the MACD. Again, this may take a little while to complete. So again, we've had a breakout, and now we're getting a topping tail, and so we'll be watching to see what happens. And let me just show you. Again, we've had this inverse head and shoulders. I told you, again, this might be the bottom. We may get one more push down. Well, we didn't. We had a breakout to the upward, an upward resolution there of the resistance zone. And I told you, again, be watching the trend lines. We can try to clear these trend lines. We could, again, go much higher. Again, we're pulling back to this top one here. We may pull back down to this lower one here where we originally broke out and back test it. I've excluded the shadows there, and that's coming in here right around the 113,000, 114,000 area here or so. And again, also, if you connect these highs to this high right there, that's coming in around the same place. If we include the shadow, slightly exclude that one, and to this point here. So right here, this could be a back test area. That's going to take us towards the 10-period moving average if we do pull back that far. You did get a topping tail, but again, you very well could end up seeing a divergence develop here to complete a wave 3 at higher levels. Again, my target level for Bitcoin is 150,000 to 175,000. Again, we may go higher than that if we take our time reaching the trend line I've been talking about. You can see the larger divergence that's forming here, but again, we may go to much higher levels, like I said in my last update, before that completes, because we've now had a breakout. If you look at the weekly chart, again, we have, let me just move this, a couple of my lines moved here. We had the RSI move to a new extreme. It's likely we're going to see a divergence end up developing here before we have a top. Again, I think what will make our way up to 150,000 to 175,000, but we could get a pullback here or a smaller pullback and still go higher. I'll show you the wave count in just a moment. We bounced off the 50 back over here at these lows at that 74,000 area, and I told you we're likely going to go to 150 to 175,000. The pullback that we had right here, it was small. This pullback was 32%. This pullback was 33%. This one was 12%. So again, we could get another smaller pullback here. And we've had these negative divergences form. Again, we may see a larger divergence develop here before all is said and done. This may just be a smaller pullback. But again, we've cleared the resistance zone. That is now support. Over here I talked about, again, wave 1 being done, this being a complex correction for wave 2, and we've likely started wave 3 right here, and we have a 1, a 2, and possibly the extended wave 3 right now that could take us to much higher levels once done. Again, this topping tail could just be a short-term top. We could pull back, bounce around the 50 or the cloud maybe, probably somewhere above the peak right here, which again I've marked as wave 1, which is the right here, this wave 1 right here, which is at that lower end of the resistance zone, just under 111,000. The upper end, again, it's 112,000 was the upper end of the resistance. This is now support, but this high right here, again, we could just pull back and then continue onward and upward. If we do have a 5-leg push higher, I think that's likely to complete a wave 3. So again, we have these smaller waves giving us the much larger waves. So again, here I've marked the 1, the 2, the 3 up here, a 4, some kind of pullback, and then a 5 at much higher levels. And that whole thing would be an extended wave 3. So again, we're likely in a wave 3. And here we have this third wave going. Do you see this third wave going up here? This is the 1, the 2, and this whole thing is the 3, and then we get the 4, and then we get the 5. And all of this is making up the primary third wave. So again, at much, much higher levels, likely for the wave 1 completing, the wave 2, and all of this with these smaller waves all making up at much higher levels the primary wave 3. Keep in mind, the 50 is still above the 200, and again, we're above the cloud. So again, this is going to be support, the 50 period and the cloud coming in here, and again, the 112,000 area. Again, I don't think we go below this low right here if we are in the wave 3, and again, I think that is very likely. I did get some topping signals here. Again, might just be a short-term top. It's very likely that we are in the wave 3. Told you down here, again, when we came up that, again, we may have just had a more shallow pullback for this count right here. Told you about both counts. I showed you the bearish count where we take this level out. That didn't play out because I told you we'd have to break this level. We'd have to come back down below the 200 period. We didn't do it. We got above it. And again, I told you about the resistance zone. Remember, the bigger picture is long-term bearish, likely going to 150,000 to 175,000, or long-term bullish, I should say. And the shorter term is short-term bearish. If this breakout holds, and it is holding, we've had a 9.8% move from that breakout point. So again, now we're pulling back. Nothing goes straight up, nothing goes straight down. But again, I'll be watching to see if we end up trying to form another reference point of a divergence here on the 4-hour chart. If we end up trying to form a divergence, forming a diversion for the wave 3 that may give us a pullback for the 4, again, ultimately forming the larger primary wave 3 circled with all of this, which again, that would take us off the chart here in the 4-hour time frame. So again, if we just zoom out here, again, a wave 1, a wave 2, and then now the wave 3, and possibly the early construction of the wave that would end up taking us an extended wave 3 that would take us much higher. So likely in wave 3. And it's probably not done. If wave 3 is the same length as wave 1, and it could be longer if it's an extended wave, but if it's just the same length as wave 1, then we're looking at from this low right here up to this area right here. That would be the same length. Okay, it may go higher than that, but that's just kind of a idea if we do have a wave 3 under construction, which is likely where we are likely headed. This is a daily chart of Bitcoin, and then we're in wave 3, we end up getting wave 4, and then ultimately wave 5, and my wave 4 is a little bit low there. It would be above the wave 1, but this wave 3 right here, this wave 3 could be beyond this level right here, and then we could get a wave 4 that, again, the wave 4 will need to be higher than the wave 1 at the 112,000 area. So again, going to be looking at, okay, where does wave 3 come in at? And again, let me just say there's different ways we can count this too. So again, an extended wave could end up being much higher. Remember, my target is 150,000, 175,000. It may go to 180, 185, 190,000 very easily. So keep that in mind. Do we get an extended wave 3? This is just if it's the same size as wave 1. Oftentimes wave 3 is the longest of the waves of the 5-wave push higher. If we get the same type of measurement from the low right here, just under 100,000, same type of measurement we have over here, then we're looking at about the 135, 136,000 area. It may be much higher than that. Again, this may just be if the beginnings of a first wave of a very extended wave. So again, keep that in mind. Look at a good example of that is the recent extended wave 3 on NVIDIA. If you've watched my NVIDIA videos or seen me my post on NVIDIA, it got a very large extended wave 3. So this may be just the first beginnings of that. That's why I say there's different ways to count this. And again, we may go much higher than this for an extended wave 3. But I'm just saying the equal, apples and apples here, this 135, 136,000 area, we may end up going much higher than that. Something more like what I've marked right here. Again, here's the wave 1 in the weekly time frame. Here's the wave 1. Here's the wave 2. If we get a pullback right now, again, this may just be the beginning of an extended, a very large extended wave 3. So do keep that in mind. Go look at my recent videos. Like today, I posted a video on NVIDIA. You go look at that wave 3 that we just had. It's massive. And we very well could see the same thing here with Bitcoin. I think you're getting this 5-leg push higher. And again, don't lose sight of my trend line. This is where I think Bitcoin will top. Again, if we reach it sooner rather than later, it's going to be at lower levels. If we take our time reaching it, we'll be at higher levels. But you're probably going to be up there at around August or September, maybe as late as October. But again, it looks like we are in extended wave 3 in wave 3 right now, and it very well could be an extended wave. So don't lose sight. This is where I think I remain long-term bullish on Bitcoin. This is where I think we're going. And once we reach this level, this is where I think the top is whenever we come into contact with that trend line. I've drawn in here these waves, but we may reach it sooner than I have drawn in here. We may reach it later than what I've drawn in here. That's just speculation on my part. Say we can reach it at 150,000, or it may take to 175, 180, 190,000, something like that. Go back to my count because, again, I'm trying to let you know this whole thing may just be one big massive wave 1, certainly possible. We get a massive extended wave 3, primary wave 3 like I have here with the primary wave 2. If we get a massive wave 3, this thing could just be huge. Too early to tell if it's gonna play out that way, but certainly would not rule that out. But here again, speculation. So just some things to be aware of. Again, L8 wave is speculation. This count could be invalidated if we start just getting a massive extended pattern, which is, knowing Bitcoin, is very, very likely. Keep that in mind. So again, just trying to look counts. This looks like a 5-leg push higher right here. Got some kind of pullback, and then a possible 1, 2. So again, this whole thing could just be a massive wave one of our first wave if we get an extended wave. So keep that in mind. Wouldn't be surprised to see another reference point of a divergence, and again, some type of recovery from a larger divergence here and a divergence on the triple divergence here and a divergence on the daily chart. Just show you some of my indicators. Now, again, we got a circle. This is showing us that momentum is going to shift. It happened before sell-off happened, but you never know if it will close that way. It did. We just closed the session about 5 hours ago, and we closed it. We ended up with the topping tail, but before the topping tail formed, it did start to form, and it ended up remaining that way. So again, this doesn't tell me if this is a major top or if we get a pullback. Over here, it was a small pullback. Over here, it was a bottom. Over here, it was the pullback that gave us the 12% sell-off. Over here, it was a bottom. Over here, the tops. Sometimes these momentum turns mark some bottoms. Other times, it's just short-term pullbacks. So again, if we hold above the orange line, we hold above 112,000. Again, we can end up going higher and it just be a shorter-term pullback, like some of these smaller pullbacks here that ended up being counter trends. So I'll be watching to see which this is, but we did get a signal for a short-term top there. With the topping signal, the topping tail that we got, we're trying to get a reversal bar here. Do you see that? It's going to turn. So again, that opens the door for a possible bigger pullback, but like I said, possibly in a wave 3, or maybe we get a bigger pullback if we're, completing a wave 1, possibly, of that larger extended wave 3, and we end up getting a wave 2. That's possible too. And that's why I said there's different waves to count this. L8 wave is speculation, and I'm just telling you, it's likely we're in wave 3. Is this a wave 1? We get a bigger pullback. Is this the smaller waves of their first extended wave? There's different ways you can count it. Again, so don't rule out that we go much higher from here. But again, we're getting a topping tail. Now we're trying to get a reversal bar. So there's risk of a bigger pullback or a pullback followed by higher highs. Here we got a reversal, but we corrected sideways. Here we got another reversal, corrected sideways. Over here, marked the top. Over here, it marked the top. Over here, it marked the bottom. So again, over here, it marked a short-term bottom. So again, is this a pullback, or is this, do we end up seeing a smaller pullback, but you did get a topping tail? Bar still green here, cloud still green, and again, cloud still green here. As long as we don't drop below the low end of the cloud, again, the bulls are in power here with the cloud. We are starting to get some bearish stuff here, but again, we're probably going to end up forming a divergence before all is said and done. So again, of some kind of pullback and probably new highs. Again, we're likely in some type of wave 3 that is going to end up taking Bitcoin to much higher levels. See the divergence develop on the daily chart. It could be, again, we have a 1, a 2, we're getting a wave 3 here, and then we get a 4, 5, and this whole thing, if a divergence develops on the daily chart, and I'd have to go up the screen here so you see, but if we got a divergence, that could just be a one big wave 1, standard 3. So do be open-minded to that. These wave 3s can end up being massive. Now, we saw the breakout here. We had blue bars, we had the blue line, and then we saw the cloud flip. It's got to stay that way if we're going to continue on higher. With the breakout above 112,000, we saw everything flip back to bullish. One thing to consider is a back test of this trend line right here. If you connect this point, slightly exclude the shadow there, again, to connecting to this point, which again, we'd just be above that with the shadow here, on the January high. Again, maybe we back test this level and then go on our way higher. This is a trend line I'm watching. Blue bars. So again, I'll be watching. And if we try to back test the 112,000 area, again, this trend line comes in play around that same area. Interesting level to be watching. Well, let's pull back. I'll be watching my trending signals, like the bars right here. Are they going to remain blue? We're pulling back so far, and they still are blue. I'll be watching to see if they remain that way. In a strong trending move, they often do remain that way, but could turn red if we end up getting a little bit bigger of a pullback. And we've pushed above this trend line from the 2017 high, connected to the 2021 highs, as I've talked about. You've had a breakout with last week's rally of 9%. We've rallied further, and now we're pulling back, getting a topping tail. If we end up dropping back below that, then that could be problematic. But if we hold above this high right here, or this low, I should say, then again, possibly have a wave 1 and 2 of an extended 3. Again, we got to hold above that trend line if we're going to go higher. If we drop back below it, then there's risk of staying below it. So again, something I'm watching closely. If we just pull back and we bounce around that level, then again, could go much higher. But just an important trend line to be watching, because again, it has acted as resistance. Now, if we include the shadow right here, if we include the shadow, again, we're coming right up to that trend line right there. And I had this trend line drawn in previously, showing you that. And that's where we're stalling right now, is at that trend line, including the shadow here, but excluding these other highs. So it is a resistance level. So two trend lines I'm watching very closely. Again, just different trend lines in the weekly time frame and the daily time frame that I'm showing you. Again, just trend lines I'm watching. Again, we've got blue bars. Even though we're pulling back, we still have blue bars. Just something worth paying attention to if we can bounce and end up going higher. Do we get a triple divergence on the 4-hour chart? Do we form a divergence on the daily chart? Bars remain blue. We had them jumping back and forth, back and forth. We've had a breakout here, tried to get a breakout here, failed, and now we have a legitimate breakout, and we have cleared the resistance zone. So again, we'll be watching. Do we back test that area? And then if we do we bounce and end up going much higher? Got that bottoming signal. We got several bottoming signals at the bottom on June 22nd. Jumped around back and forth from green to red right here. The bars jumping around a little bit there. But right now, the bars are still blue. The cloud is still green. The line is blue. So again, no topping signal here. I'm getting it in a few other places. Remember, signals remain bullish, but I've had topping signals on a few of my indicators. Again, this really formed even before the topping tail had formed. We closed that way, and again, signals are still bullish, but we're above that upper band. I told you to be watching for a topping tail. We did get one, and now we're closing back below the upper band. So again, could get a pullback or a bigger pullback, but again, just levels to be watching. The 112,000, 110,000 area signals still are bullish, but you're getting a topping tail, and you're getting some sell signals saying, hey, we've gone too fast, too far. And so we're getting a pullback. Again, I've had a few signals here, but not all of them. There's no topping signal here. We did get a topping tail. Still may show up. But even if it does, it just may mean a short-term pullback like some of these other signals. This marked a top. This marked a bottom. Bottom over here. Some tops over here. But counter trends. Even if we get one, it could be a counter trend. Again, it's likely with the breakout that we've completed the wave 2 and we're now in a wave 3, and maybe we do get a bigger pullback. It could be, again, an extended wave where we're getting our first wave of 3 and we're pulling back. So keep that in mind, that, again, this could just possibly be a wave 1 and then we pull back for 2. Or, again, the other count I showed you is that we pull back a smaller pullback, and then we go higher for going an extended wave 3. There are different ways to count it. Don't rule out any possibility, but it is likely we completed wave 2 here, and again, watching to see just how big of a pullback we get. So again, I have a couple of different counts. I showed you the one about a couple of the other possibilities. Keep that in mind. Be open-minded. A signal still bullish. We did get a topping tail. We did get some short-term topping signals. We saw the trend change back above the ribbon, back above the 112,000 area. Now we have to stay above this area. Got to stay above the ribbon. We drop back below it and hold below it. The risk is that we get a bigger pullback. If that's the case, then again, we possibly have our first wave of a wave 3, which could be an extended wave. Don't rule that possibility out. About a wave 3, 4, and going higher and still completing it. But if we do get a bigger pullback, because I think a divergence is likely going to develop before a bigger pullback. But again, don't rule this scenario out. If we start dropping back down back below 112,000, that again we are getting a first wave, an extended wave, of the first wave of an extended wave 3. Certainly possible.